Morning everybody, welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. It is 10 o'clock in coastal North Carolina and 90 degrees. So I figured, isn't it a good day to get this parsnip project done? So let me explain to you what's going on. We're going to be adding shade, but it's not necessarily for temperature necessarily. So this is just me really getting my first fall crop in the garden today in the middle of July. Here's the bed in question. We've got the rows. I kind of roughly did. I had to rebury this line here. So we did that. And then you can see I laid some seed down. And in classic Sandy Bottom Homestead fashion, we zigzagged them down just to kind of maximize space a little bit. I do need to remove this trellis today. So we're going to do that. And then I'll show you roughly how the shade cloth is going to go on there. Let me get this going and then I'll come back and I'll tell you more about the shade cloth and how I'm using it and why I'm using it and preparing this bed, because parsnips take a long time, like 100+ days to form. So if we plant them now and then we start calculating, okay, we plant them now, let's say with the warm temperatures we're lucky and we get 10-day germination time, which can be upwards of 20 days. That leaves us probably around August 1st-ish, roughly. And then another 3 months after that, so you got August, September, and then into October, which would be right around our first frost date. They should start getting to where they're about ready. We will be getting less sun, so that it will take even longer than that. So we're really looking into hopefully November before we can get it, but we're gonna try and jam pack this bed and get as much as we can out of it. First, we gotta remove our raccoon deterrent. This actually works pretty well for this bed, but we're gonna add some more to it. This is just a solar light. Works pretty good, it's motion censored. But yeah, what I'm gonna do is take this down, but I'm going to leave these up so I can use this structure itself. So we've got 3 poles in here that we're going to leave. It does hurt my heart to take this down, but you know what? Sometimes the garden's just got to evolve, and you never know. This project may spur us into liking something a little bit different, using this space for something else. So I'm not overly upset. I'm optimistic, I guess. You know, I'm always looking for a reason to change a design in my garden, and if it works out better, then great, but if it doesn't, then whatever. And right now I'm using this little pocket knife, which isn't the greatest for this project, but if I had my diagonal cutters, which are called dikes, but it's not politically correct to say that word, so I would use that, but we'll use what we got today. So now that that's removed, I dug another trench and just added another row of seeds. I seed these heavy because, you know, they're going to be in there so long before they germinate. You don't know if they're going to rot, and the seeds don't really last. So I put like 5 or 6 seeds in each spot. And then I want to come back and do a little bit of this fertilizer. So we're not using a high nitrogen fertilizer by any stretch of the imagination, but we definitely want to get it in here, and now's the time to do it. And with my raccoon situation, this does put me at risk, but that's why I'm not adding blood meal, because I think the smell of the blood is just really what draws them in. Clearly, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer to say that out loud, right? But we've got to do a couple things to get this bed going because it's so hot. And it's not even the hot part of the year yet. Late July all the way through August is our hottest period. So we want to make sure that we get this bed nice and protected. And that'll settle the food. We got the water under control. So now we need to cover it. And I always use, this has been a great tool. This is a Warren hoe. So this is amazing for making rows to plant seeds in, and even doing anything in the garden. I actually like this better than a regular hoe. You can't go wrong with a $10 hoe, can you? So we did double rows on each one, and we don't want to cover them heavy. So what I do is I just go at an angle, and I'll just run this right down the line and lightly cover it, because you don't want to go more than 2 to 4 times the diameter of the seed. So if we run down the hill that we made when we made the planting furrow for every one, that will roughly cover it. And that's the first layer of protection for these seeds. But we got to do more, because it is a volatile time of year for sure. I'm not sure which one is the most important step that we're about to do, if it's the shade or the next step. I tend to think it's this next step. So we're doing, like I said, we're doing multiple levels of protection for these seeds. And it's just really to keep them moist enough to germinate, so we don't have to kill ourselves watering them all the time. So there's 3 things going on here. The first one is we're gonna take and we're gonna add some of this straw onto it, but we're not gonna put a heavy layer on just yet. We're just gonna get just enough to cover the soil, and I'll show you how I do it. Okay, oh boy, try not to spill it. We've gotten a little bit of rain, thank God, so everything's a little damp, which I'm not gonna argue with, but that's the exact point of this. So what I'll do is I just grab one section of the bale. You know how it comes in like little pieces? And so I'll grab one section at a time. Usually you want to put like a real heavy layer, but like this is all we're gonna do. All the way down. And if it falls in big clumps like that, what we'll do is we'll come back, like that one in particular, I'll pick it up. And this is just gonna add a little bit of shade, a little bit of protection from the wind and rain. So we'll take this one and, just pepper it a little bit. And it may be really wet right now, which is okay, but if it gets dry again, which I guarantee you it will at some point, then it'll fluffen right up and the seeds will be able to pop through it. So we'll just do this all the way down the garden bed. Okay, nice and easy. Nothing crazy as of yet. You can see we've got this all loaded up. You can even see the soil through the surface, and that's just fine. So the second part of this, believe it or not, we have moderately high chances of getting rain for the next 7 days. So we're gonna use this to our advantage for multiple reasons. One, obviously it's gonna water the ground. It'll keep it cooler when it's cloudy out. Even though it's 90 degrees, it's cloudy. Imagine if it wasn't cloudy. And then the other thing too is it'll keep, this mulch will keep all of the soil from bouncing up and dislodging the seeds. It doesn't stop it, but it makes it a lot more tolerable for the seeds. I mean, you've got to give them time to germinate. So we're really hoping that with these higher temperatures, coupled with us cooling it a little bit, that we can get a quicker germination than we normally would, more than 20 days, faster than 20 days. So what I'm gonna do now is I'll show you kind of the benefit of, this is setting up a garden bed with a low tunnel and then leaving it. So if you haven't seen the videos before, and I'll do videos about it again as I put them back up, because I'm gonna be adding more to my garden. What we've got going on here is we've got these stakes that we put, and so I just left them in this bed. And to be honest, I was just kind of lazy, but now it's gonna work out pretty good. The only problem is I don't have one in the middle, but I can add it. So the shade setup that I'm about to do is very custom to my garden, but you'll get the gist of it, and if you need to adjust, you definitely can. All this is a really big shade cloth that I cut. And I've got strings already in the corners from when I've used them before. So we're just gonna tie them on. If you're worried about knots, I'm a big knot guy. It's from part of being on ships and stuff. I use a clove hitch, very simple. You can Google it and learn how to tie it, but it is very good for tying anything to a post like this. And make sure that you don't do what I just did and tie the wrong end up first. So we'll have to do that. And the old adage of if you don't know a knot, tie a lot, that's bull crap, and it doesn't work. Okay, I had to do some adjusting. It just was too flimsy, But this is what we've got set up so far. It may change, but I doubt it, and I'll show you where the problem's going to arise. It was too long, because generally what I did last year is I just kind of put it over the top. But because I'm doing it this year, I had to kind of, it was sagging a lot in the middle, a lot more than it is now. So what I did is I just kind of bunched up the corners, and I readjusted things so that it would be up. So you can see that. The problem is going to arise right here. So this is going to get a lot of sun. I'm okay with just that section being kind of jacked up. I can overly mulch it or whatever. And then I put those stakes in the bottom and just held it up. And so right here at this gap, you can see may end up being an issue. If I was a smart man, which I'm not, I would just tack it down right there, but I don't really want to do that. So they may not get good growth up in the front. This is what happened last year. But I have it set up like this because the hot sun of the day comes from over here and it just beats straight in. So like in the middle of the day when it's even, you know, it's just as hot, it doesn't really get a lot because of these trees up here. So we did this to kind of block it, and it worked really well last year. And then the other good thing, like I said in the last video, is I can come in here and I can water it, I can tend it as I need. You can see that right now it's shaded. There's no need for sun for it right now. It does not need any sun because there's nothing growing. It's just a seed. And you got to remember that. Seeds don't need water or don't need sunlight until they get greenery. Then you got to do it. And even then at first you can still kind of starve them a little bit until they start to grow. So this should work out pretty well. We'll see. What we'll do once we get good growth underneath it and we can clearly see where everything's growing, we'll come back in here and we'll just have to keep an eye on the temperatures, but we will mulch in between the rows nice and deep. But until then, we're just going to leave it. Now I do need, before I forget, I need to turn the water onto this bed so that it'll get watered. And now for the next 7 days, supposedly, we're going to be getting some rain. So we'll see how that goes. But even if we just get a rain shower every night, I mean, that's enough to keep it going. So we'll see how it works. Parsnips are really tricky. One, they're a high value crop for me. I can't get them at the store really, so automatically it's a no-brainer. But two, you've got to plant them so early. So this is the first thing to go in for the fall. And yes, it is July, but this is what we planned on. This bed sat empty for this. And then once we harvest it, this bed will rest for the winter. So we're kind of gearing up for that as well. I also don't want to mulch too heavy with the straw because I plan to do a lot more mulching with leaves this year. I missed that last year, and I think I don't think my soil was just quite as good. So I'm gonna work on that. And so I don't wanna mulch too heavy with the straw. I wanna make sure that I have time to get the leaves in there and then go from there. But it's kind of like managing heat and managing moisture. And so those two things together are really important this time of year. As far as these trellis panels I have, first of all, these are rebar or like concrete grids. I don't know what you call them. They're like $6 at Lowe's. They're in the back corner, and the rust on them, if you can see, is actually really good because it helps the plant grip to it a little bit easier. So I've already said I'm not going to put them on the back of this bed again for the next couple of years, if ever. What I'm planning on doing, since I have 2 panels and I'm building out these beds, I'm moving those beds over here, I'll probably put those panels up over there on the ends of those 2 beds in the front, because the sun, if I put them this way, it'll block good sun. If I put them that way, it's not doing anything but blocking behind it, and I'm not totally worried about that. I thought about doing more cattle panels, but I'm really just trying to skirt by right now. That may be in the future, but until I totally figure out what I'm growing on those, I'm not gonna do that. So I'll probably do those 2 4x8 beds. They'll probably get them, if I put them out here, depending on how I lay them out, I'll probably put them there. And then that's how those trellises will get used. I'm a big fan of trellises, and I'm a big fan of trellising plants. I enjoy them. What can I say? And so the more places I can add them, the better. And plus, moving away from areas like this area with the mosaic virus and stuff will help us kind of progress in that manner. So we're going to be doing that. And then this coming Tuesday, I'll be doing a live on YouTube about, we'll be talking about heat and some other stuff. But this is kind of like a companion video to that, just because this is kind of discussing that. But I'll get into more detail. And obviously the big draw to that is people, we can talk and answer questions. So I hope to see you guys there Tuesday. A reminder will come up in a post on YouTube and you can click on that. But yeah, this is an easy way to set up some protection for sun, heat, and water, excessive rain and stuff like that. So hopefully, again, I never know if it's going to hold, but for right now, it looks good. We'll tie it up as needed, but I don't plan to change this in any way. So what are you doing in your gardens for heat? What are you doing for your fall plantings and stuff like that? Let us know in the comments below.